Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the Paper Crane Yarns Knitting Podcast. My name is Ashley and I am a yarn dyer and a yarn store owner. I'm coming to you today from my store, which is called Paper Crane Yarns, and we are located in central Alabama, USA. We are in a little town called Calera, right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Paper Crane Yarns, and my website is papercraneyarns.com. So everything that I talk about today will be linked down below, of course, and if I have failed to mention anything, please feel free to reach out to me and I will do my best to answer any question you might have. Let me go ahead and say right off the bat a couple of things. One, I have a cold, so I'm sorry if you can hear that in my voice. I hope the sound of me being sick isn't too terrible. I also don't have a microphone currently like I usually do, so I'm sorry if the audio quality is a little subpar today. My goodness, do I have a lot to share with you for this episode. So I have not recorded a sit-down podcast in a couple of months. I think September, at the end of September is when I last recorded one. And that's not to say I haven't been present here on YouTube, because I did film Vlogtober, which is if you're unfamiliar, it's where you record a little video of your day every single day in the month of October. And I think I managed all but one day. I had to combine a video with 2 days, but otherwise I did 31 days of vlogging. So that was so much fun. And just like last year, I got to know a lot of you really well during that time. Your daily check-in comments with me were so lovely. And all the messages that I received, I still haven't even gotten to respond to everything. It was just so much in a most beautiful way. So I won't go on about that, because if you watched the vlogs, I definitely addressed it over and over in those videos. But I just wanted to say one last very big thank you. I had a ton of fun filming Vlogtober, and I look forward to doing it again next year. I promised that I would do a couple more vlogs for the end of the year. I have actually been recording. It's just been, I just haven't sat down and put the footage together. So I'm not even sure what the quality is of those videos. It might just be some kind of little bonus video that I put up for free on like Patreon or something. But we'll see. So yes, I am doing that. And in December, which is only a week away, I will do some weekly vlogs. So I won't be doing daily vlogs, but I will try to do once or twice a week. I'll do some vlogs. And so yeah, thank you for your excitement over that. And it was a pleasure to share this beautiful October with you all. I hope you are all still having a beautiful fall and whatever season you might be in at the time that you're watching this. I hope that you're finding lots of time to make lovely things or read books or make good food. I just hope you're having a nice time. I have been certainly having a busy time, but a nice time nonetheless. So I am super excited to share with you guys the projects I've been working on. I have mostly finished objects to share with you today. I think I only brought one knitting work in progress. I have one spinning whip, which is actually behind my head. I have a stack of cross stitch works in progress, and I know a lot of you enjoy that, but I know that some of you do not. So I will do my best to put a little timestamp on the screen when I get to cross stitch, which I'll save that for kind of towards the end. But when I show that, I'll make sure to put a timestamp on the screen in case you want to skip the cross stitch. So before I get started with showing you all the projects, which I promise I will do shortly, I also just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody who came out for the first ever Alabama Fiber Festival. It was so much fun. That happened November 2nd. So it's been a few weeks now, and we had the most incredible time. Personally, I just thought it was wonderful. Everybody I've spoken with had a wonderful time. Vendors and patrons, it was just incredible. I don't think that they could have pulled it off any better than they did. So go to their Instagram account, go to their website, Alabama Fiber Festival, give them some love. Bea and Kara are the event organizers, and they essentially did everything on a volunteer basis, and they worked so hard on it. and they created just the most wonderful event. So I am so excited for next year. I think it can only get better from here. So thank you to the 1,000 of you who showed up. We were not expecting that. It was just remarkable. Hands down the best show that I've ever had in terms of sales. It was just wonderful. Oh, I should mention, so I did dye up a special show colorway, and it was based off of a photo that Bea and Kara took of Briarfield Park, which is where the event was held. And it was just this beautiful, I'll try to insert a photo if I still have it, but it was basically like Alabama clay. There was like lots of, dirt, but then there was rocks and copper stuck in. And so the copper element really stuck out to me. So I dyed up this colorway called Alabama Copper. And this was my special show colorway for AF 2024. And you guys blew me away because this colorway sold out in the first hour of the show. It was crazy. So I've had a pre-order open for this colorway. And initially I was only going to leave it open for a week and then close it, but I've actually already dyed all of the yarn that prior to today. I've already dyed all of the pre-orders that came in, so I feel really good about where I'm at right now with my dyeing and my schedule. So I'm going to continue to leave this open probably until next Saturday. So I think I'll have it open through Small Business Saturday, which is November 30th. Gosh, that's another thing I should mention. I don't have all the details ironed out because I've been sick, but we will have an event at the store for Small Business Saturday, November 30th. My friend Robin, she should be coming. Her dyeing business is Bird's Nest Stitchery, and she's going to do a little pop-up here, so we'll have that to look forward to it. Anyway, yes, this Alabama Copper, you can order it on just about every base that I have. It's available on my website until the 30th, unless I reach capacity, and then I'll close it. So yeah, that's Alabama Copper. I can't wait to one day make a sweater out of this with some mohair. So yes. So now I think I can go ahead and get into all of the projects that I've been working on. I will start with my finished objects. And again, if you did watch along with my Vlogtober, you've probably seen a good bit of what I'm going to share with you today. But this will at least be a fun recap if you did watch that. And yeah, so we'll start with what I'm wearing. This is called the Stripe Hype Sweater by Veronika Lindberg, or Kutovakika here on YouTube. It is a beautiful pattern. I'm so excited that I knit it, and So I knit this as like a mini knit along with two of my yarny friends, Stacy and Maddie. And so they came into the shop several weeks ago, and they said they were kind of talking about how they were going to cast the sweater on. And so I told them I wanted to do it with them. And I'm so excited that we did. So let me stand up and show you. I think it's just absolutely beautiful. I love the colors that I went with, and the fit is so comfortable. The yarn is super comfortable, and it's very warm. It knit up extremely quickly. It was one of those things where it was just so easy to knit a stripe, and then I'll just do one more, that kind of thing. So I think I finished this in 12 days, something like that. It just was so quick because it was so much fun. When I cast this on, I think it was really the only thing that I was working on until it was finished. So very happy with it. I was using this project bag to carry all of the yarn. It's a nice big sweater size bag from Fat Squirrel Fibers, one of my absolute favorite bag makers. I've shown this bag a million times, but I love it, and I use it as often as I can. As soon as a project leaves, I put another one in. So for the yarns that I used, almost all of these are either my hand-dyed yarn or it's the yarn that I carry in my shop. So the main color, this pinky beige, is Sandnes Garn Double Sunday, and this is in the color 3532, which I think is called Cameo. So this was my main color. I think I used 6 of these, which would be 300 grams, and this is a DK weight yarn. So all of the yarns that I used were DK weight, but I think I used 600 grams of this. Nope, 300 grams of this, 6 balls. This is a beautiful non-superwash yarn, and I carry quite a bit of Sandnes Garn in my shop, so this is available on my website. I do need to reorder this colorway specifically, but I have lots of other colors to choose from, as well as some other of their yarns. So that was my main color. And then my contrast colors were actually largely leftovers from my pumpkin sweater, which I'll get to next. So my color up here, these are on my non-superwash merino DK base, which is one of my newer bases, and I love it. It's my favorite yarn of all time now. But this is my Celadon colorway. So this one skein knit me this sweater and this sweater. So this was my CC1, and that's all up here at the top, in like around the neck and on the drop shoulder here. And then color 2, I actually did not bring a ball of it over here with me, but this is the only yarn that's not from me. It's a deep foresty green, and it's from Treehouse Knits. I think I received it last year. I purchased some mystery skein packs from her, and so this was in there, and I don't think it had like a real name. It was maybe like serendipity or something like that. It was probably just a one-off from a tonal that she did, but it's just a beautiful deep forest green. So I used up probably 50 grams of it, maybe a little bit less, and I have all 3 stripes here. And then this last color is, so this last color is sort of a variation of my caramel latte colorway. That's a colorway that I dye frequently, one of my best sellers, one of my personal favorites. But this was a 50 gram skein that I had dyed for myself in a different in a palette of yarns that I was planning on using for a different project. So I dyed it a little bit differently than caramel latte is usually. So I just decided to throw it into the sweater, and here it is. And as you can see, I only have 2 stripes, whereas I have 3 stripes of all the other colors. And that's because I actually ran out of yarn, but I'm really glad that I didn't put in an extra stripe, because this is already quite long. It's shorter in the front and longer in the back, but in the back it goes down, I mean, far over my hips. It covers me, so it's pretty long. So it ended up being the perfect amount of stripes. So those were all the body colors. And then up here, this is also from the pumpkin sweater. This is my origami colorway on the non-superwash DK. And then this colorway, this pink, is Huga. And this was my main color for the pumpkin sweater. So I have 2 kind of coordinating sweaters here. I was glad to use up leftovers. I actually still have a good bit of Huga and then the Celadon. So I'll probably make some kind of matching cowl to go, like a doodle cowl to go with these projects. I really like to use up all of my yarn, especially my hand-dyed yarns and colorways that I really love. This was what I had left of the caramel latte spin-off colorway, so it would have been enough to do a few rows, but probably not all of the rows for the stripe. So that's stripe hype. I didn't mention, but I knit the size medium, which gave me, I think it's like 11 inches of positive ease, and I do plan on making this one again, but I'll probably make the size small. I did go up a size when picking for what size I wanted to make for myself, and I think it's perfect. I really like it, but it is quite oversized, which again is what I was going for. But I think if I make this one again, I'll do a small, so that way I can wear it. With this being DK weight and so large on me, I feel like it's a bit warmer, so I want to make a smaller one that I can maybe wear on the slightly warmer autumn days. Like today, for example, the high is 69 degrees Fahrenheit, and this past week we've had much lower days and the temperature is going to drop again. But wearing this today compared to the cooler days that we've been having, it's a bit warmer. So anyway, that's that. I did... Can you tell I'm a bit rusty? And then of course I'm also sick, so hopefully I'm cutting out some of the rambling and the pauses. I'm sure as this video goes on, I will get the hang of it again. I did, so this is 1x1 twisted rib for all of the ribbing, and I think it looks super nice. And then all of the bind-offs were done in contrast colors. Even my hem bind-off, I'm not going to stand up again, I already showed it, but the pattern does not call for that. It calls for it in the sleeve cuffs and around the neck. But I just figured since I'm already doing that with all the other details, I would do that for the hem here. So I did the hem in pink, just like the neckline, and then I did the celadon for my cuffs. And this is a sewn bind-off, an Italian bind-off, a tubular bind-off. Yeah, I did a sewn bind-off, and it looks really nice. I think it looks really, really nice. That's my favorite kind of bind-off. I always do it if I can. And I did the long twisted rib details, so yeah, I just think it's gorgeous. I love this whole color palette. I love the fit. Everything about this sweater I think is a success, which is nice because, you know, not every sweater I've ever made for myself has been as successful as I've hoped, so I'm really glad this one really worked out. And if you've been considering knitting this one, I say absolutely go for it. There's so many ways that you can knit this from stash. If you have some DK weight yarns or enough fingering weight to hold double, you could do every single stripe in the whole sweater a different color. You don't even have to have a background color. You could do all the stripes in one, in one solid color. Yeah, there's a million ways to play with it. So moving on to my next finished object, we'll go ahead and talk about the pumpkin sweater next to me. I am so happy with my pumpkin sweater, and I think a lot of you guys love it too. I think I put up a picture of this on Instagram when I was still working on it, and I think that picture has gotten more love than anything I've ever put on Instagram, so I'm glad that everybody was as excited about this sweater as I am. I haven't actually gotten to wear it yet except for pictures, so I plan on wearing it sometime this week, and I really look forward to it. Yeah, let me just change into it real quick. So this is my pink pumpkin sweater. I love it more than words can say. Oh my gosh, I just feel my cheeks almost hurting when I look at it because it just makes me smile. I'm so happy with it. I'm sad I haven't gotten to wear it yet, but there's no time like the present, so yay. I have on some little pumpkin earrings to kind of go with it in anticipation of putting on the sweater. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. So this pattern is called the Pumpkin Patch Sweater by Meghan Regan, and it was really fun to knit. Very simple color work. I did modify certain aspects of it, but a lot of it is just straight to the pattern. So if I remember correctly, I knit size 2 of the pattern, but I did adjust my gauge a little bit. I wanted my pumpkins to be a little bit bigger, and I talked a little bit about the yarn here. Same kind of yarns, the celadon, the white, the pink, Huga. But the orange is actually a yarn that I had in my stash, and it's not one of my hand-dyed yarns. It was a sport weight yarn that I had. It was called Nash Tide. I got it from Rhinebeck last year. A really lovely yarn in a beautiful pumpkin orange color. And initially I didn't dye myself in orange when I dyed the rest of this yarn for the sweater because I thought I was going to knit white pumpkins. But I swatched and I didn't like the way the white pumpkins looked overall, so I just decided to pull an orange from stash, and I'm really happy I did this one. So this is 2 strands of sport weight held double, whereas the rest of the yarn are DK. So that did already kind of make the pumpkins a little bit bigger. and I didn't want the color work tension to be really tight, so I did go up a needle size from what was recommended in the pattern. I think that's correct, even though I got gauge when I swatched with the correct or the suggested needle size. Again, I just adjusted it. So, and then I think I maintained that modified needle size for the whole pattern. So even though this is size 2, I think it's a couple inches bigger, maybe. Like you can see, there's a little bit of positive ease in the body. There's wrinkles from where it's been on my mannequin, but yeah. So I like the fabric that I got. I think the gauge of the fabric looks really nice. So overall, I'm really happy with what I decided to do as far as yarn and needles go. And then of course I did modify the sleeves. So in the pattern, she just kind of writes general instructions for how to make a tapered solid sleeve. But I knew that I wanted something really fun to kind of play up the rest of just everything that's going on here. I think this color work is so pretty. I loved my color palette, and I just wanted to add an extra element of something whimsical, because if you're wearing a pink pumpkin sweater, you might as well make it whimsical, right? So generally what I did was I knit the entire sleeve straight with no decreases. I didn't do anything up until I got right up to the end, and I don't remember exactly how I decided where to start the color work, but I think when I was at about like right before bracelet length, so a couple inches before I normally would have liked the sleeve to land, I took this part of the color work chart, this right here, and I implemented it here in the sleeve, which included doing a massive increase because I wanted this to be color work and balloon style. So I doubled the amount of stitches that I had on the go. So doubled it, so it's a pretty massive increase. And then I worked the color work chart, and once I got it, I got as many rows of the chart as I wanted. I did a massive decrease. So I think I went down, I think I halved it twice. I think I might have written notes on my Ravelry page. I'm very sorry. It has been the craziest, busiest time, so some of the things are leaving my head. I talked about it during Vlogtober, so you might be able to go back and get those details if I didn't put them in my Ravelry page. But regardless, I did a massive decrease right here, which is why the cuffs look kind of funny, but obviously they fit just fine. So yeah, and then I just did a 1x1 rib and bound off. So I'm, again, very happy with this sweater. If you happen to catch my Instagram posts about a month ago, maybe even more than that, I had offered some dye to order kits for the sweater, and so I know that there are some others out there who also have pink pumpkin sweaters or who are working on them, which is really fun. Some of you who watch this are going to have matching pink pumpkin sweaters with me, so that's awesome. But that's not all. I also knit a little pink pumpkin coffee cup cozy. I just think it's the cutest thing ever. I think one day I just kind of wanted to do some easy, quick knitting, and I had never knit a coffee cup cozy for myself. I'd only ever made them as gifts. So I wanted to make myself one, and it occurred to me that I should make something to match my sweater, because why not? So I used the same yarn, except for this. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually think that this is this, which might be why I didn't have enough to do a third stripe. I don't remember exactly, but I think that might be true. So I robbed myself a little bit. Yeah. So I guess this is another matching thing with this. I used the Jamie Lomax Pacific Knit Co. Autumn Doodle Cup Cozy. It's like her original cup cozy pattern. I think it's $4. And it comes with a pumpkin chart, a bat, maybe something else. I think it comes with a few charts. But this was one of her original doodle patterns, and I bought it years ago. So I have been getting use out of this, and yeah, it's a different pumpkin than what I have here, and it's a slightly different color, but it's pretty similar. Yeah. So that's my silly little coffee cup cozy. So there's another finished object for you. Again, I just think it's so cute. Yeah. This is probably weird to say, but wearing this sweater makes me feel kind of precious, like like in a cute kind of way. I just think it's the cutest thing ever. I'm excited to wear it out, and I know everybody is thinking, okay, we're at the end of November, it's practically winter, but you know what? That's not true. For like 4 more weeks. We have 4 more weeks of fall, so I'm gonna wear this out and I'm gonna be delighted by it. Let's move on. Continuing on making matching things. I made this. This is an Oslo Hat mohair edition by Petite Knit. I made this to kind of match my stripe hype. Now I'm thinking I need to put the stripe hype back on so I can try it on all together. I have not gotten to do that yet because it's been a bit warmer today. I actually cast this on right before the Alabama Fiber Festival because I thought it would be nice to have some easy stockinette knitting while I was at the festival. But thankfully you guys kept me so busy that I actually wasn't able to knit at all. So I had this cast on and then I didn't really work on it until I finished my stripe hype and I realized how perfectly this would match the sweater. So I was holding this one in my, it's a Knitting Nelly, shop Knitting Nelly project bag. Yeah, Knitting Nelly. I was holding this in my Knitting Nelly project bag. Super cute, perfect for fall. And I actually used much less yarn than the pattern called for. I did knit it to the pattern. I didn't check my gauge, but it fits perfectly, so I must be close on gauge at least. I knit the adult medium, and these are the yarns that I used. So I held a strand of mohair with a strand of fingering, and these are both Knitting for Olive yarns that I bought around this time last year when they were on sale. I had actually purchased these to make another Couture beret, but I have knit so many berets. I forgot, yeah. I've knit so many berets, so I decided to make a different style of hat since I don't have any hats like this that I actually wear. So my fingering weight yarn, the merino was called Camel Rose, and the mohair is Brown Nougat. So I marled these, and I think the marl effect is really lovely. It's not just plain beige and it's not just plain brown. It's a little bit of both, and held together, I think they look kind of pink, which I love. I love all shades of pink. And so for fun, I decided to add this. It's like a vegan fur Pom Pom. So it's really nice and soft, very fluffy, very large. But I had this at my shop because I kind of ordered it thinking I was going to carry these in the shop. So I added it onto this hat, and that's kind of why I think it matches perfectly with the sweater here. What's fun about this Pom Pom is it actually just has this little ribbon. So I just tied it on there, and I liked the hat a lot without the Pom Pom. I haven't really tried it on since I added the Pom Pom, but I can easily remove it if I want to, or if there's ever a time where I just don't want to wear it, I can take it off and put it back on. So that's pretty nice. No like sewing it in or dealing with a button or anything. So overall, I think it's really cute. This pattern, I am almost ashamed to admit this, but this pattern did confuse me a little bit when it got to this part where you turn. I couldn't understand why you would turn instead of just knitting in the round. And if you've knit this before, or if you've looked at the pattern, you probably know what I'm referring to, but there's no purling in this pattern. You basically start off knitting a very long, just tube of stockinette, and eventually you fold up that stockinette and sew it down with your cast on edge, or you can do a provisional cast on. I just cast on long tail and sewed it down with my edge, and I think it looks fantastic, so no issues there. But you sew it down, and then you actually knit a little bit, like a certain length, and then you turn and you start working it inside out. But the pattern didn't really say, it did say knit, so I figured it was knit, but I thought surely you have to purl so that you don't end up with, the reverse stockinette exposed. So thankfully, I thought, I'll just look this up. Surely somebody has put something on the internet about it, because the pattern doesn't explain why you're turning. It just says to turn. So I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I came across a video from Knit California, and she made a video just talking about the turn, why you do it, how you do it, the reason why, just all of that. And it was super helpful, nice quick video. So it made sense. You do actually turn and then continue to knit, and then you do have the reverse stockinette here exposed. But what that does is when you fold up this brim, it actually just causes it to kind of stay where it's supposed to. So it is a really clever design element that just reading the written pattern and not seeing pictures of this, I did not understand. So thank you to the person who has the Knit California YouTube channel, because that was super helpful. So here's my Oslo hat. Let me turn and see how the Pom Pom looks. I'm still undecided. I think the hat itself looks cute. I'm just not sure about on me. I've always been very apprehensive about beanies. I think they are one of the cutest accessories, but I think there's something about my face shape that makes me unsure about them. I feel like berets are much more flattering on me. I don't know. It is very cute. I am excited to try it on with this. I think when I had bangs, this style of hat looked cuter. I'm trying to do faux bangs. So anyway, but yeah, this should have taken, these yarns come in 50-gram balls, or 50 grams for the merino, 25 for the mohair. It said that I would have needed 2 of each, but I didn't even use 1 of each, so that was kind of nice. That does mean I have 1 full ball of each of those left, so I could probably knit either another accessory to kind of coordinate with this and wear with all these things, or I can knit another hat and gift it. We'll see. But yeah, I have those left over, so it took less yarn than I expected. But yeah, super cute. Pink is my favorite color, and as much as I hate to admit it, I like it with beige. I don't know if it's the most flattering on me, but I think it's nice, so I'm gonna go with it until I'm bored of it. So that's my Oslo Hat mohair edition. There we go, that's not creepy at all. So speaking of hats, I have another little finished hat, except this one is for my daughter, my 2.5-year-old. She has been wearing it a lot. This is the most adorable little bonnet, and it is a tin can knits pattern. I think I knit it about a month ago because I'm pretty sure I knit it the last time I was sick, which was a month ago. Super cute pattern. The pattern was a few dollars, and it comes in sizes from newborn through adult large, I think. So I might actually make myself one at some point because it's so precious. But it's 2 yarns held together again, and I don't have either of those yarns with me because I've used up a good bit of them. But the merino nylon fingering weight yarn that you can kind of see marled underneath there, it's a Yarnaceous Fibers. It was her Paleo Botany Yarn Club from last year. It was 2024. It was like a white skein with pink and tan and a little bit of subtle bright red speckles. And I made myself a pair of socks earlier this year that you may remember. So I used the leftovers to make this hat, and I held it double with another yarn that I've used in 3 projects now. It is from Lavender Loon Yarn, and it is a cotton alpaca nylon fluff yarn. So it's more of a sport to DK weight fluffy kind of yarn. So I held those 2 together, and I just think that the marl is really pretty. It's kind of peachy and tan, and then there's those pops of pink speckles in there. Super cute. And it has this really pretty edge here, and then the garter to kind of keep it nice and fitted to the face. My favorite aspect is that it has this little point in the back, so I'll try to insert a photo of her wearing it. It is so precious. And then of course you've got these I-cord ties. I think I made mine a little bit longer than the pattern said, and honestly, I think the ties are so cute. I probably could have made them even longer, but they're nice and proportionate for her body. So that's her little hat, beloved by Tin Can Knits. Super precious. It was a 1-day make, so yeah, the gauge is pretty large since I held those 2 yarns together. And it's knit from side to side, so it was a really fun construction. And it was one of those things where you start off with just a few stitches and you increase until you've gotten to the full width, and then you decrease so it starts to like feel faster when you're decreasing, and it was just really easy to just do it all in 1 day. So yeah, that's her winter hat for this year, and probably next year. It's like the perfect size where she should have a couple years of wear out of this. And talking about hats made me realize I have another one to show you. I actually knit this at the very beginning of October, and I think it took me like 2 days, and then it's been too hot to wear it, so I completely forgot about it. But I actually knit this to coordinate with my pumpkin sweater. So you can see I've been doing a lot of coordinating knits. I think that's what really works for my wardrobe. It helps me to actually get a lot of use out of my knits, because I know at this point, I mean, I own a yarn store and I dye yarn. I'm looking at and touching yarn all day. I have made quite a few sweaters for myself and accessories. So I find that it helps if I really want to get use out of things to make things that coordinate, and especially in colors that I love. So this was a very, very fun and adorable test knit that I did for Sashiko Johnston since she got married. I've test knitted for her before. Let me retie this bow real quick. But this was a test knit that I did at the beginning of October, and I actually helped to name the pattern. So it is a beret with a bow. So I suggested the name Bow Ray, and she went with it, so that's really fun. And just like this one, I actually used the same fluff to marl in both of these hats. Again, I like to use up as much of my yarn as possible, and I still have so much of that yarn, and I used it for color work in a sweater, so that yarn apparently goes a long way. So now my daughter and I have hats that have the same yarn in it, and then let me go grab one more thing. So the yarn that I marled that with was the leftover from my Calville shawl, which is a pattern by my beautiful friend Gabriella of Merryweather Knitting here on YouTube. So I had some of that yarn left over, and it's a baby alpaca yarn from Juniper Moon Farm, and so it's a really soft alpaca. I had almost a full skein left over from this project, which I knit I think 2 years ago now, and I was waiting to use it in something special, so I marled that with that other leftover yarn, and I have this beautiful beret now. So it matches my pumpkin sweater, it matches my Calville shawl. I love pumpkin orange and pink, so you can't go wrong here, right? And then of course it has this really cute bow. So this was a very quick knit. I made this in, I think, an evening into the morning, so just a few hours. It's another large gauge project, and I did omit a few rows from mine to make it a little bit smaller from what the pattern said, because I knew I wanted to wear this one on sort of the back of my head. I have a few other berets that I've knit that are larger, so I wanted the smaller one, and I think this one came out just right. Sorry, it's hard to just kind of throw it on and not take a second to style it. Let me show you the back of it. So it's so cute. Throw on my shawl, my pumpkin sweater. So there we go, another coordinating project. So as I'm sitting here thinking about all the projects that I knit last month, it occurred to me that I forgot one of my most important finished objects at home. It just totally slipped my mind that I haven't shared it yet. I finished my Heirloom Quilt cardigan by Katrin Seeberger. I started that project in June, and it took me until October to finish it. I just really honed in on it in October, and it was like every morning I would wake up and knit a square or two, and until I had all the squares that I needed, and then I spent a couple days sewing them together and all of that. So yeah, I finished that, and I forgot to bring it, so I'm going to do my best to insert a little bit of footage here. I talked about this project at length over the course of Vlogtober, so if you're really that interested, you can probably go back, and I titled each video from that month with sort of the main theme for that day, so I'm sure there's several videos where I was specifically working on that project, so feel free to go back to those videos if you want to know a little bit more about the process. But yeah, I will insert a little bit of some pictures, and I think I have a video clip of that. It was so fun to make. It was definitely a process that required a lot of diligence and commitment, because it was I knit size 1, so my squares were a little bit smaller, which means I ended up having more overall to knit and sew together than if I had done one of the larger sizes, because those squares were actually an inch or two bigger, and so it would have been bigger squares but fewer to cast on, cast off, and sew together. So I felt like mine was a little extra tedious, but totally worth it. I love it. I've been kind of tweaking it ever since I finished it, because sewing it together, like grafting each square, some of them were neater than others, and some places where I wove in the ends, the color is so high, it's such a high contrast that you can kind of see it on the other side. So I've had to go through, now that it's all finished, and just kind of fix a few things here or there. But you know, that's the kind of project that is totally worth that extra time. And I have been wearing it a lot. I think it's so beautiful. It's such a fun pattern. And yeah, I'm kicking myself for not bringing it because I can't show you what it looks like here, but hopefully the pictures and the videos will suffice, and I will try to incorporate it into the next video and wear it a little bit. I am not done with finished objects. I have 3 more to share with you. Let's break up from the sweaters a little bit, and I'll show you quickly this finished pair of socks that I have. So the last time I recorded, I had 1 sock done, and now I have both. This was a yarn that I dyed just for some fun sock sets, and they sold out in October. This was my Monster Movies colorway, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun dyeing this and then knitting it up. So it's this really fun purple base with speckles of kind of like a poppy red, bright orange, and then some dark purple. And then the contrasting mini is a really bright orange. It's actually the same dye that I used in some of the speckles. So I had a lot of fun knitting this, and I actually haven't worn them yet. I just haven't had a chance because it's not been cool enough. But now I'm gonna take them home and I'm gonna wear them because I don't have any more sock sets, so they don't have to stay nice and neat anymore. I can go ahead and get some use out of them. But yeah, so those were fun. I'm glad to have finished another pair of socks. All right, back to a sweater. So this is another one that was a nice quick knit, and I knit it in October. I think I started and finished this while I was filming Vlogtober. So I had a very busy month last month, which I've been kind of paying for this month. I've just been trying so hard to catch up on my rest. But this is a Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers, or Savory Knitting. This is the 3rd one that I've knit. When I bought this yarn, this is a Brooklyn Tweed Shelter yarn, and I think the colorway is called Honey. I bought it from their 2nd sale either last year, or I think it was actually the year before that. So I've had 3 sweater quantities of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter just sitting in my stash, and I really felt uncomfortable with that, so I just wanted to go ahead and start knitting with some of it. The reason why I hadn't started knitting with it before was because I had an idea of some other like big cabled projects that I wanted to make, and I just kind of thought, you know, I'm not going to hang on to this yarn. I'm going to go ahead and turn it into something that's actually functional for me to use now. And I knew that this pattern was a nice quick knit because I've made it twice before, and the other times that I've made it, I've used the Istex Let Low Be, which is a beautiful yarn, very warm, but I wanted something a little bit softer that I could wear as a layering piece with, you know, linen dresses, or yeah, just something cozy like sweatshirt style. So I ended up using about half of the quantity that I had, so I still have, I think this took almost 4 skeins of yarn, so about 200 grams of the worsted weight yarn, and I still have 5 skeins left, so it didn't even use half of what I had, which means I still have another sweater or shawl project worth of that yarn. And obviously I've shown you all these projects where I'm reusing the yarn, so I know that I will use it, but yeah, it's still kind of staring at me. Not quite as much of it, but I still have 5 skeins of it, and then I have 9 skeins of this in a deep green color, which that I am going to use it for a specific project, but it probably still won't take all the yarn. So I'm happy to be using the yarn that I've had sitting around for so long, but yeah. So I think I knit size 2 of this pattern. It might have been size 3. It should be on my Ravelry page. I did get gauge with the recommended needle, not needle, but you can kind of see that it's a little bit airy, the gauge, which is part of why I didn't take a whole lot of yarn. So when I was initially knitting it, I was not really sure if I liked the fabric that I was getting, even though I was on gauge. I wasn't sure about the actual fabric, but blocking did, as I assumed it would, blocking did help to even out and kind of disperse that airiness throughout the whole sweater. So that helped quite a bit, and now I think it's really cute. The only thing is I do feel like the hem, when I first finished it and blocked it, was a little bit wavy. And if I remember correctly, I don't think I pinned this out at all when I was blocking it. I think I just laid it flat because I didn't really want it to grow. But I think now that I've worn it a couple times, it's evening out a bit. So I think this is one of those kinds of things that the more I wear it, the more sort of broken in it'll be. And I think that's kind of just to the nature of this Brooklyn tweed yarn. It's like a woolen spun, very lofty, super lovely. I love the feeling of it, and I really love the color. I've been using this again as a layering piece over some dresses, and so yeah, I've worn it a few times. I actually wore it the morning that all of the bridesmaids and my best friend, the bride, was getting ready for the wedding. So now it has that very special memory built into it where, yeah, I don't know, it's just so special. So this was a nice quick little knit, and the more that I think about it, I could actually use what's left of this colorway and knit a different size, like maybe go up a size, and that should use up all the yarn that's left, and I could gift it to somebody who it would fit. I might do that because it is a quick knit and I think it's beautiful, so maybe I should do that. So that is my Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers. Very easy pattern. It's one of the first sweaters that I ever personally knit. If you are a beginner, I very much recommend this one, especially since, so I get questions in the shop a lot from customers who are either, maybe they're crocheters and they're wanting to learn how to knit, or they're just new knitters in general, or maybe they've never knit a sweater before and they ask for recommendations about where to start. And I like to recommend this pattern because it's one of those patterns where the fit is not super important. All of the sweater pattern, so they're all kind of intended for a little bit of positive ease. So as long as you can kind of get close to the gauge, you're probably going to fit the sweater. It might end up being a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger, but the fit is not super important because it's boxy. There's really no shaping in the body. So no matter what, you kind of end up with something that you can at least wear. Like the first one that I ever made was one of the first sweaters I ever made. Didn't come out perfectly, but it's still extremely wearable. So yeah, this is a great pattern if maybe you are a beginner, because I do get asked that. Okay, I think I only have one more knitted finished object with me that I can share with you. This is another super exciting one because it has been on the needles for a couple of months and I wasn't working on it the whole time. I just didn't want to. Yeah, I don't know. It was a really fun knit. It's just that it wasn't for me and it wasn't for my daughter. It's for my husband. So it was more knitting because he's taller than I am. And it was just one solid color. I don't know. It's beautiful and I enjoyed working on it the whole time. Every time it was in my hands, I enjoyed the process, but I kept wanting to lean into, you know, these color work projects and just different color palettes that I was enjoying. But my friends, I have finished my husband's annual sweater. So every year I knit him a sweater and I usually knit him a couple of other little things. I don't know if I've knit him anything else this year, but I have at least knit him a beautiful cardigan. This is definitely a gorgeous piece. And I'm very excited to go home after I record this so that he can try it on, because I finished this yesterday during knitting group here at the shop, and I just I soaked it and blocked it overnight, and so when I got here today I was pleasantly surprised that it was dry and ready to go home. So this will be his first time actually trying it on, with ends woven in, both sleeves, all of the details are done. And it looked amazing on him before even being blocked or finished, so I think it's going to look incredible. This is the Old Fashioned pattern by Maxim Sear, It is the cardigan version of his popular single malt sweater. It is an all over, sorry, the sickness is starting to catch up with me a little bit. I talked through it a lot and now it's like coming back. It's an all over, I think it was moss stitch pattern, and then this lovely ribbing, which I think was a 3x1, or is it 2x1? A 2x1 rib. Just super beautiful. I love all of the details. There's this gorgeous folded over collar. Yeah, it's not a button band. There's no buttons or zipper or anything. But anyway, it just has lots of beautiful details. This is my third pattern that I've made from Max, I think. I've done the unbearable hoodie, this one. Oh, and I made the hide and peek sweater for my nephew. So this is my third time knitting his patterns, and they are extremely successful and well done. He is an incredible pattern designer. I look forward to making more of his designs for sure. Let me try to show you a little bit closer to the camera. So here is the really lovely raglan decrease, and it continues down the body and down the sleeve. So I love all of that continuity, that framework here for this pattern. The stitch texture is absolutely beautiful. I used a yarn that I carry here in my shop, and it is called Stone Wool. It's a 100% non-superwash Corriedale. It's an Aran weight yarn. And so this cardigan is actually very heavy. I think it's almost 700 grams. It was 7 full skeins of that yarn. So it's quite heavy. My intention with this was to give him sort of a winter coat sort of sweater. And then it has this really nice double folded, or like this folded, so double fabric neckline here, like this collar that's going to stand up really nicely. And so this will keep him nice and warm because he has short hair and he gets pretty cold. Where he works during the winter, there's no heating except for in his office. So I think this will keep him nice and warm while he's not in his office, which is most of the time. Yeah, so I will hopefully get a picture of him and I will insert it so we can all see how lovely it looks on him. But I'm very excited. This is sort of one of my anniversary presents to him. Our anniversary is the middle of August, and I think I cast the sweater on right before it. So I didn't feel a lot of motivation to work on it until it started to get cold, because now I know he can actually wear it. It wouldn't have mattered if I gave this to him in August. He could never have worn it until right now. So yeah, there's this gorgeous sweater. The colorway is really beautiful. It's like a reddish brown with some really dark brown bits, so it kind of looks marled. Yeah, hopefully I get a good picture. I'm very excited to go home and give this to him. He's very deserving of it, and I know he's gonna wear it because I'm going to make him. No, I do actually think this will be something very functional for his wardrobe, and I think it will be an advantageous sort of thing for him to have for work. I would like to get some maybe family pictures done, and he could wear this if he is willing. So yeah, it's super cozy. Looking forward to giving that to him. And I think that comes to the end of my finished objects. So that took about an hour. I'm gonna pause for a brief break. Okay, I took just a quick moment to refill my coffee, get up and stretch a little bit, try to kind of calm this down. I'm actually doing better than I expected. I don't handle being sick well, but I really can't complain because I don't get sick often at all. I don't think I've ever been sick twice in a year like this. So for me to get sick just 1 month apart from the last time I was sick, almost to the day, it's bizarre, and I hope that it goes away. Okay, so I think I only have one knitting work in progress to show. I've actually wrapped up most of my projects since I finished my husband's cardigan. I finished my Heirloom Quilt cardigan. I still have my my wings, which is my blouse that I'm working on. It's a Claudia Quintanilla pattern. I love that one. I have put in a little bit of work, but it's not something that I can work on frequently because I have to be completely alone to work on it, so that I don't make any mistakes. So I haven't been able to work on it much. The only other real work in progress I have cast on is I actually do have a whole other project I didn't bring. It's just a pair of socks. It's no big deal. I shared it in Vlogtober. I'll show it next time when they're done. I'm working on the Maine Coast summer socks. I have one sock done and the other sock is half done, so I'll just share those next time when they're both done. And then I'm still working on my second mitten that I shared 2 months ago in my last podcast. There are these pea-colored, like pea shoot green mohair mittens, so I need to finish the second one. And that's really it as far as my active works in progress, except I have this one that I'm about to share with you. Plus I got accepted into a very exciting test knit that should be starting any day now. The designer said she was going to email us the pattern. She was going to try to email it yesterday. Hopefully it comes in today so I can get started because I have my yarn ready to go. So my next cast on is going to be I'm assuming it's pronounced Violetta, but it's spelled Violetta. But the designer is Vert and Rose, and it's the most adorable cottagecore cardigan that I've ever seen. So I'm really excited that I'm going to be test knitting that one. So I dyed up my yarn. I'm using my Woodfire Clay colorway, and this is on my non-superwash DK. So I think this rosy kind of color looks really nice with my skin tone and my hair. And I have some other like matching accessories that I know will go well with this. So I'm just waiting for that pattern to come in, and then I'm going to knit away on this cardigan. Other than that, I have one new cast on, and this is one of the first project bags I ever made for myself. I don't make this style very often, but maybe I should because I like it a good bit. It kind of looks like a tote bag, but it has this button and loop closure. And then it has these clasps on the side so that you can clasp it together, which kind of changes the shape of the bag. I have not sold these in a long time, like maybe a couple years, but it keeps everything nice and secure, and it kind of turns it into sort of a bucket slash bowl. The yarn in here is very light, so it's kind of collapsing on itself, but yeah, I think this is quite nice, and it's Alice in Wonderland fabric. So I have not used this in a long time. But I'm actually knitting with Nutidin, which is this one right here behind me. And because it's those really big, fluffy cakes of yarn, I knew I needed a big bag with no zippers or anything that could potentially damage it. So this bag is working great. So yeah, I'm actually working with these yarns you see behind me here. I'm holding one strand of this Nutidin yarn. I don't remember the colorway, but it probably wouldn't matter because I don't think they often repeat colorways, but it's absolutely beautiful. It's subtly pink and gray and red all at the same time. Super stunning. And then I'm holding it, this is my Huga colorway, which is my pink that I'm wearing, but this is on Surrey Alpaca. And this was the first iteration I actually ever dyed of Huga. So since then, I've kind of made it a little bit more solid, but anyway. So I'm holding one strand of the Surrey with one strand of Nutidin. And I am knitting the Huga Hug, which is a pattern by Isabella Clark of 100 Acre Wool. And this pattern, I think, was the whole reason why I even bought that Nutidin yarn. I really wanted Nutidin, but I wanted to make sure I had a pattern in mind. And so I knew since I bought it, I think, that I was going to knit this pattern. So I'm excited to finally be working on it. So it's Huga Hug, and it just looks so dreamy, these two yarns held together. Hopefully that's coming across well. But this texture pattern is so beautiful. So I'm working on the back portion right now. Here's the increases for the shoulder there. I have this cute little stitch marker from Lindsay of Simply Serving on Etsy, and it's my little one-eared mouse. Somehow I lost an ear last year. I keep losing one ear off of my little stitch markers from her. But it's a little pink mouse with a candy cane, so it's cute and pink and kind of wintry, which I thought matched this project well. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Everything you see here, I've actually done twice now. I knit this whole section, this whole piece, and it thankfully did not take very long. But working with the Nutiden, you know, it's a little bit more tricky than working with like a solid or like a more sturdy yarn. But I knit this whole thing, and then sorry, I heard a noise. I knit this whole thing, and then I ripped it all out yesterday. So I shared a picture of this on my Instagram stories and then immediately ripped it out. And so this is the byproduct of everything I ripped out. It's both of the strands of yarn together, and it has been a little bit messy. I will say this yarn, this looked better the first time around that I knit it, but with that Nutiden and me knowing I can't get more of it necessarily, I wanted to conserve as much of the yardage as possible so I don't accidentally run out. So I re-knit all of the yarn that I pulled out. I did think that this yarn looked better the first time around. So when I get to actually working with the cake again and not what I ripped out, I know it's going to look even better. What's interesting is the way that the Nutiden works. It's that unspun kind of yarn. Since it's so floofy and all of the strands are kind of just side by side and they're not spun and they're not plied at all, when I knit them all and then ripped it out and did it again, it kind of caused all of those fibers to condense, which actually sort of changed the color, which I thought was interesting. So whereas it started out a little bit softer pink, I think, when I kind of condensed those fibers, I would say overall it adapted more of a gray tone. Like, it's very interesting the way that that worked. So we'll see when I start working with the cake again and not this little ball, if the color looks much different or if it's just in my head. So yeah, still absolutely gorgeous, but I did have to rip it out. Not fun. It wasn't as horrible as I thought, even with that Surrey alpaca strand in there too. I thought it was going to be a nightmare, and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to reuse the fiber, but I clearly did, so that's great. I ripped it out for a couple of reasons. So, this stitch pattern is extremely fun to knit, and it's very easy. But because you're doing all of these increases, it's not just knitting back and forth with the stitch pattern. You're having to build in these increases, and I have no idea if it's a me thing or if it's a pattern thing. I truly don't know, and I have sat down and tried to wrap my head around it a little bit, but knitting, and so we're trying to work this out while being sick. Probably not the best idea. But there is a point when you get past sort of the row by row written instructions where she kind of tells you, this is the stitch pattern, which you've already learned. This is the stitch pattern, and you're basically going to do increases here and here, and then just do the stitch pattern on all the other stitches. But the problem is, once you start increasing in multiple spots, you can't just follow that same stitch pattern without incorporating certain other things, because each of the little cluster of stitch pattern requires more than one stitch. You know, like let's say there's a portion that's knit, purl, knit. Well, if I'm only increasing one stitch in an area, by the time I come back around to it, it's no longer something I can knit, purl, knit. Now there's that additional stitch. So you can't just repeat the stitch pattern exactly as written without any other information. Or am I missing something? See, that's where I'm confused. I pulled out everything I had done because even though it looked beautiful and it was mostly correct, when I got to that portion in the pattern, I noticed that I was kind of making mistakes or you know, what I thought were mistakes. And so I wasn't increasing. I didn't have, at the end of each row, I didn't have as many stitches as I should have. And I think that is simply me forgetting to do some of the increases, because at that point there were so many on each row, like each pass. But also I had gotten my stitch pattern off so that I was suddenly doing like one cluster of the stitch pattern here and then the other here where it should have been reversed. I'm probably not making much sense, but basically I cannot tell if I am just overcomplicating it and adjusting it unnecessarily as I go, or if the way that the increases are built in does change the fact that maybe I need to work certain stitches differently. I don't know. I've kind of, now that I've done the whole thing twice, I've kind of established my own way of doing it. It's my attempt this second time around is definitely much better. I have as many stitches as I should, but I am dealing with those certain stitches where I'm like not sure what I'm supposed to do there to mimic the pattern. So I'm just kind of reading my work and following that stitch pattern where I can. And then all the other stitches, those increased stitches, I'm kind of just playing with it in a way that I think makes sense. Because the thing is, you're increasing on the right side and on the wrong side in the same places. So you're suddenly having, after every other row, you're having these extra 2 stitches right there in that same spot. And I'm not sure, am I crazy? I don't know. This is why I'm not a pattern designer. These things are so, like, I understand knitting so well, usually, but occasionally I come across something that just confounds me. But all that to say, it's still a gorgeous pattern. I think it's going to work out just fine. I just have to kind of play with it. And the good thing about this knitted in yarn is, and the Surrey, is if I have a couple stitches here and there where I kind of don't know what I'm doing, but the stitch count is correct, it's all going to work out fine in the end. Because the good thing about this yarn is it kind of fluffs up and fills in that space a little bit. So yeah, like you can't tell that there's anything weird about anything, right? From there. So yeah. Super gorgeous pattern. I have been wanting to make this for a while, so I'm really excited that I'm working on it now. I will quickly show you my spinning work in progress. I have done a good bit on this, and I don't know if I've actually shown this on the podcast. I think I've only shown the fiber. But here is a good chunk of what I've been spinning. I think it's so beautiful despite its many flaws. Just the very brief saga of this fiber. Let me grab the fiber. I bought this absolutely gorgeous fiber to do my very first full sweater spin of yarn. I have made sweaters with my hand spun before, but it was just the color work. So I want this whole project to just be this yarn. But the problem is, and I've talked about this before, but the problem is when I bought this, I bought it purely based on the color, and I wasn't even thinking about the fiber content. This is baby alpaca and sari silk, so it's absolutely gorgeous, and everything about it visually is so perfect. I think it's spinning up just as beautifully as I had hoped in terms of the color. But the spinning process is actually a little difficult, I'm not gonna lie. And I think it's because it's just so soft. And then the bits of silk, these bits of silk don't really want to spin. They don't want to draft at the same rate that the alpaca does, if that makes sense. So it's easier to get kind of these slubby bits of the silk in there where the silk is kind of staying a bit thick. And that's okay. I don't mind that it's gonna be slubby, but just the process of spinning this when I first started it was really not fun. I do think I've gotten the hang of it, so even though it's going to be thick and thin, I think I'm okay with it overall. I do worry that in certain spots it's a little bit underspun, and normally I would combat that by plying the yarn, and then it would kind of end up balancing itself out. But I'm actually not sure if I'm going to ply this. I kind of think I'm going to work with it as a single. So we'll see. I still have this, which is significantly less than I started out with, but I still have all this to spin. And then I have a huge bag, another full pound of this fiber to spin up. And hopefully that will give me enough for a sweater. I do think I'll have to spin this or knit this as a single to maintain the color, the way that the color has played out, and also yardage, but we'll see. So I'm very slowly spinning on this, which is moderately frustrating because I'm not allowing myself to start another spinning project until I finish this one, because I did invest in this quantity and, you know, the sweater quantity of fiber. I don't want to stop and start. I could easily stop spinning this and just spin through a fun single braid of fiber that I have in an easier fiber and just enjoy it. But I'm not going to allow myself to do that. I don't want to lose steam on this project, so it's taking me a while to work through it, but when I actually sit down to spin, it doesn't take me a long time to do this, to fill a bobbin. So I just need to dedicate myself to it a little bit. But I'm thinking I'm going to knit Something Cozy by Shayna Billow because I've seen that pattern. Natalie of KnittyNatty knit it, and I think it might have been double stranded, but I'm pretty sure she used a slubby yarn in a similar colorway. I thought it actually looked fantastic, and it looks like an easy pattern to sort of modify based on the gauge that I get with this if I end up plying this or doing single ply. So I think that's my plan, is to knit that. So I'm really trying to dedicate myself to making the yarn as nicely as possible so that I end up with a beautiful sweater. It's extremely soft, which is nice because sometimes my hand spun will look really pretty, but it'll be kind of coarse. And I don't mind that, but that is something delightful. Kind of a silver lining with this fiber is it's still really soft. I love the really vibrant colors in there. So yeah, that's my spinning project currently. So now I'm going to talk you through my current sewing project. I started on a quilt, which is super exciting. Yeah, I've been having the most amount of fun, like an illegal amount of fun sewing this quilt. I ordered many months ago. There was a Ruby Star Society collection that was coming out. I think it shipped to me at the end of September or early October, end of September. But I had pre-ordered it several months before that, and I was just kind of waiting for it. And I knew that when it arrived, it would be close to the time where I could take on a big quilt project. Like fiber festivals would be over with, and I would have just a little bit more free time to make something like this. So I happily got started on this as soon as I could. So these are mostly fabrics from the Juicy collection by Ruby Star Society. There's a few other fabrics thrown in here, but I'm just going to quickly take you through each square. I'll just kind of quickly flash them and move on. I'm doing a Sawtooth Star quilt, and I'm just making it very colorful. I don't think I'm going to put any sashing in between these. It's just going to be all the stars, and then I will bind it in a really fun color and call it a day. But I'm making this will be the largest quilt I've ever made. I've only really made baby, like crib size quilts and then a throw size quilt. So this will be bigger. It's going to be, I would say it's going to be kind of like a twin, like it's going to be longer than it is wide. But it'll be long enough to go on my bed, but not wide enough. I have like a queen size bed. Anyway, it's going to be the biggest quilt that I've made. So I'm not sure yet if I will get to quilt it on my machine or if I'll send it off to somebody. But my deadline for getting this quilt done, I want to have it done. Oh, something I didn't even mention. I want to have it done by March because I'm going to be a vendor at Nash Yarn Fest in Nashville, Tennessee. It only took me an hour and 20 minutes into this video to tell you guys that. I'll have that linked below. But I think it'd be fun if I got this done, this quilt, and I actually had it hanging at the back of my booth as like a backdrop. I think it'd be very inviting and colorful. So that's my sort of deadline. I would like to have it finished before then, but that's sort of my stretch. So if I'm going to send this off to a long arm quilter, I'm not sure how long that process takes. I need to get this done. Anyway, let me show you my fabrics. So in this one, you can kind of see that I've implemented a couple of other fabrics. This is the Ruby Star Society Starry. Did I say that all? Yeah, Ruby Star Society Starry collection. So I incorporated some of that. And then I have, this is, I don't remember the designer, but it's just a solid pink. So right now my plan is for each of these background colors, I'm making 2 squares of the same background. So when I bought this fabric, I just got a fat quarter bundle. So I'm trying to maximize the usage of the yardage, and that means incorporating some other yardages that I think are similar. This one I think is my favorite. And I love this one too. So that's where I'm at. I'm a little bit over halfway done with all of the squares that I'll need for this particular quilt, and then I have all of the fabrics in stash to start making another one. I'm going to make like the same kind of quilt. Maybe I'll do some sashing, I don't know yet, but it's going to be more pinks and browns and orange, and it's kind of like this color palette right here. So I'm excited about that one. Probably a little bit more excited than I am about this one. But yeah, that's my quilt that I'm working on, that I'm very excited about and very proud of. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about cross stitch, and then I'm going to show some acquisitions, and then we're gonna call it a day because this is a long video. That's what happens when I disappear for 2 months. So I will put on a timestamp right here in case you want to skip the cross stitch. I know a lot of you love it, some of you just don't care at all, but I cross stitch a lot now, so that makes up a good portion of what I've been working on. So yeah, there's a timestamp if you want to skip ahead to the acquisitions portion, or if you wanted to say bye here, then thanks for tuning in today. So again, I have several projects to share. I'll start with what's on top. This is my Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Arctic Animals Stitch Along. I love it. So I am all caught up technically. There is another clue that's been released, and it looks like it's not going to take very long, so I will start on that here very soon. But other than the newest clue, I'm caught up through all the rest of the clues. The most recent one we did are these glaciers slash like cave right in there. And so the next thing that we'll do that's out now is there's an Aurora Borealis that's going to go up here, and there's going to be some constellations with, I think, the glow in the dark thread. So I'm excited to stitch that. And then I know eventually, I think next after that, we'll come down here and start to fill out some of the ocean part. Like I know there's going to be a narwhal, not sure what else, but there's still a few clues left, and we get 1 clue per month. I think there's 11 clues total. I don't remember what number we're on. Maybe 8, I don't know. So there's still quite a bit to go, but I've had a lot of fun. I think since I last shared this, I finished the Arctic hare and the glaciers. I think I had already done everything else, maybe. So yeah, that's my Arctic Animals Stitch Along. I can't wait to finish this one. It's been so much fun. I'm proud of myself for keeping up with it. Okay, next one I'll show. Very cute project bag, very fitting for the color palette of this project. This is Coffee and Eggs by the Artsy Housewife. I have made some progress since I last shared it. It needs to be ironed because it's been sitting in my bag, but I really hadn't touched this at all. And then one day I had a little bit of time on my hands, so I just resumed what I had been working on, which was really her over here. I got started on her skirt and I finished one side of her jacket, except where I have to stitch in the buttons. I had initially put this away because I had run out of this floss up here that is in her hair and in her dress. So I had to order another skein of it, and it came in. I haven't picked that skein up yet because I've just been working on these fun colors here. But now that I have all the flosses again, I'm gonna go back to working on this. I think I'm doing this on, this is either a 28 or a 32 count, and I'm doing 2/2, so it's using up a good bit of thread, and yeah. But I think it's super fun. I think these colors are really pretty, and I'm just very excited about this project. I am going to frame this one when it's done. I'm over the halfway point, so if I stitched monogamously on this, I could get it done before the end of the year, but I don't think I will be doing that. I think it'd be kind of fun to finish that in the springtime anyway. I think it's a really nice all year kind of color palette and design, but I think it works beautifully for spring. It's just so pretty. So that's my plan. Another project that I managed to get a little bit of work into is, I think this is my favorite. I don't know, it's hard to play favorites here, and there's a few hanging threads, so I'm sorry about that. This is the one I think I'm most excited for in terms of a finished object. This is the Last Unicorn? Wait, did I just forget the name of it? I think it's The Last Unicorn by Sprouting Lupin. And I'm doing this on a 28 count fabric. In hindsight, I wish that I was doing this on maybe a 32 or 36 count, but I mean, it's fun to have these motifs really large, but I think, I don't know, maybe I like the 28 count on this, I'm not sure, but it's a linen. I'm doing 2/2, and I know this is probably going to annoy some of you. It does kind of annoy me. I spent one good day making some progress on this, and then I just could not be bothered to fill in that little patch. But I think these colors are looking so beautiful. I'm really enjoying working on this one. There are a lot fewer stitches in here than I initially thought, so I'm farther along in this than I thought I was, which makes it a little bit more motivating. I'm using Markup RXP on my iPad to stitch this chart, like the PDF, and for some reason it says that there are 22,000 stitches in this pattern, but when I had to go to the Etsy listing to link it in one of my videos in October, and I reread the listing and it says there are 11,000 stitches, so I think there's only 11,000 stitches in this, which means I'm much farther along than I thought that I was, so that's nice. But yeah, this one is so precious. I can't wait to hang this one. This will probably be one of my favorite projects I've ever made in my whole entire life. The margins are really tight on this fabric. Again, I kind of started this whole thing when I was really just starting out with cross stitch. So if you recall, I had actually started stitching it on a different piece of fabric, and I ended up getting a new piece of fabric, but I should have gotten probably a bigger cut of the fabric. So far, I think it's all going to fit. I'm hoping. So I don't want to have to cut off any of the design, you know? This next one is a new start that I began in October. This one has been really fun to stitch on, and it's been very nice to stitch on because I'm actually using silks, which is my first time using silks. This is a tiny modernist pattern. This is called Always Time for Tea. And I'm using all the called for materials, which is kind of nice. So this fabric is Weeks Dye Works. It's a 30 count grasshopper. Let's see, do I have this? Okay, there we go. And then I'm using these silks from Treehouse Silks. And it's just 4 colors, which is nice, and they're so soft and very easy to work with because they just glide through the fabric as you would expect. So I haven't had issues with knotting and things getting stuck. So that's made the stitching process nice and easy. But I made a decent amount of progress, and then I haven't picked it up in a couple weeks. I'm excited to put in all the back stitching to help to outline all of those fun details in this pattern. I'm sure, as you could see in the picture of the chart, it's this cute little teapot cottage where this bunny lives. And I think that the tea bag element is so cute. So yeah, there's going to be lots of outlining here. Oh, it's so soft. There's going to be lots of back stitching to outline the shutters and around just the window and just the pants, everything. So it's going to look really nice when it's done, and I'm excited to frame this, and I know exactly where this is going to go in my house. It's a small chart, but there's a lot of fill-in because of the teapot, and yeah, just there's a lot to do in this one, even though it's kind of small. I just need, again, with all these projects, I just need to sit down and dedicate some time to it. So here's another new start that I absolutely love. This is from Stitch Sprout. I'm part of her Patreon, and so this was a Patreon pattern. It's like a mystery stitch along that is called, let's see, she changed the name of it. It is something. I'll put it on the screen. I don't remember now. But she's released more of the pattern, and there's going to be this beautiful cottage in here and then like a white picket fence. So I was planning on keeping up with this one, but I ended up deciding that I was using stash threads for this, stash flosses. I didn't have all the called for colors, but when I saw the picture of the house, I decided I wanted to go and get the called for colors because I really wanted, there's like different pistachio greens and celadon, and I really wanted everything to be spot on because some of my color changes were pretty different. So yeah, I went and the flosses are sitting over there. I need to put them in this bag so that I have everything ready to go. But this is going to be a beautiful one. So far I have one of the butterflies, and then this is going to be a little clothesline with like a linen sheet or something on there. I have this cute little dinosaur, and I think the fabric is really pretty. This was something I picked up without a project in mind, but it worked out perfectly for this. This is a Picture This Plus 14 count Aida fabric, and the color is Da Vinci. This is going to look like a pretty sunset behind the cottage, which is nice. So yeah, I think I only worked on that project for one day, and then I haven't touched it since. But now that I have those flosses, I need to put them in the bag and get everything situated so that I can resume progress on that one. And then I have one more work in progress to share. I do have a few other whips, but I haven't touched them since I last spoke with you all, so I will not show them. This is one that I was so excited about. As soon as I saw the pattern had come out, I really debated on, should I go ahead and buy this stuff now or should I wait until next year? And it needed to be now. So I have been mostly stitching on this recently. This is Merry Autumn Pin Keep by Stacey Nash. So this was a new release this year. And as you can see, there are chickens, there's a cute house, there's white pumpkins. It's absolutely precious. So I have made a decent amount of progress on this. I'm kind of considering devoting myself to finishing it this year because I really want to frame it, and it's really fun to stitch on. So yeah, I have a lot of progress here. I've got a little pumpkin patch needle minder. I have my cute little kind of Victorian Gothic looking chicken lady. I used to have black hair, so I'm envisioning that this was me back in the day. I've got one of my pumpkins here, my pretty little flowers. We've got the grass coming up. I've got this beautiful sort of autumn harvest moon, and then the border, which is really pretty and very fun to stitch. Of course, I've got my chickens. I'm stitching out the grass right here, and the little blank spots are where the stepping stones will go, and then the house is going to come in right here. And then that's pretty much the width of this. And then there's that bottom section that'll have all of the plants. So I'm probably about 25% of the way done with this, I would say. I don't know, I'm stitching it from the paper chart, so I don't have anything calculating that for me. But yeah, I love it so much. I am not going to finish it into a pillow. I'm sure one day I'll start to appreciate that, but right now in cross stitch, it's not something that really appeals to me, is having little pillows. And maybe that's because I already have a million knickknacks in my house and I can't think of where I would put that and be able to see it and appreciate it, and it wouldn't get pet hair all over it. So I'm gonna frame this, and it's an odd size, so I'm going to get a custom frame made, but I found an online website that I think I can get the perfect frame for maybe $30 versus I've heard you can spend a whole lot if you go to a craft store or a custom frame shop. So I'm gonna spend like $30 and get my frame, and I'm gonna frame it myself, which I've done so far with all my pieces, but there we go. Oh, and this fabric is to die for. It's so beautiful. It is a 36 count, which it turns out I really love stitching on the smaller count. Sorry, I kicked you. I really love stitching on the smaller count fabric. So it's 36 count, and I'm doing 1/2, which has been very fun. It definitely looks nice. The black, the gunmetal colorway, is looking a little sparse, but not, I think it suits this design, so I'm not worried about it. The rest of it I think looks really nice. The coverage looks fantastic. And it's been kind of nice stitching 1/2. I'm still getting it knotted in some places, so I want to get some thread wax, but yeah, that's that. The color of this fabric is called Bramble, and I can't remember who makes it, but I know the color is called Bramble. And then these are my flosses, so they're all Weeks Dye Works. Yeah, they're all Weeks Dye Works. They're a bit of a mess, sorry, but it's a beautiful autumnal palette. So that's my favorite cross stitch work in progress, I think, that I'm actively working on. I just love it so much. And as you might know, we are chicken people. We had a bit of a tragedy and we now only have one chicken. The other chicken, unfortunately, we were rebuilding our fence in October, and our neighbors, on the last day of rebuilding the fence, our neighbors decided that it would be okay to let their dogs out without supervision, and they came straight into our yard and attacked our chickens. We only had two. They're about 5 years old, and we raised them since they were just hatched. They're our pets, and unfortunately, one of them, she was killed. It's pretty devastating. And the other chicken, she was very severely wounded, but I am proud and happy to say that we have nursed her back to health, and now she's an indoor chicken. She is so funny. So we've had her inside because she had a really massive wound in her side, and we were not sure. So she had multiple wounds, but there was one in particular that was very bad. But we every day we cleaned it. We applied all kinds of topical medications, antibiotics, everything that we could to help her recover, and she's totally recovered. It's like it never happened, except now she thinks that she's a full-time indoor chicken, and she looks at us. She is so aghast when we put her outside so that she can go out and forage and do all the things that a chicken should. She will stand at our back door and look at us through the glass until we let her inside. She comes running in with the dogs. So she's hilarious. She's always been very sociable because we've had them since they were babies. They've always been our pets, and we've socialized them very thoroughly, and so they're very bonded with us, especially my husband. So we've had no issues there. It wasn't like it was some unusual thing to bring her inside, but now she refuses to go outside, so that's pretty funny. I know it's because she's by herself now. In the spring, we are going to get chicks, and my husband right now, as I'm talking to the camera, he's rebuilding our coop, and he's kind of revamping that whole thing, and so it's going to be nice and new and suitable for them. But yeah, she's by herself now, so I get why she doesn't want to be out there. It is very sad. So she's inside most of the time. And her name is Chicken, by the way. All of the chickens had variations of that name, but she was Chicken because she was always the top of the pecking order, and she was kind of the boldest and the funniest, and so her name is Chicken. And I always knew she'd be the last man standing, and she is. Okay guys, I'm gonna wrap things up with some acquisitions, and I do have a good little pile of things to show you. So we went to Alabama Fire Festival, and I did buy some things from one of the farms that attended, so I'm excited to show that to you. And I also took a little impromptu visit to Opelika. My parents are kind of in that area, so we all met up for the day in Opelika to spend time together, and that's where my friend Laura, she owns All Strung Out, which is a yarn shop, and it's in Opelika, and so she happened to be open that day, and we happened to be right in her area, so I stopped by to say hello because I'd never seen her new location, and of course I purchased a couple things, couldn't help it. So I do have a little pile of yarn, and then I have some other kind of fun stuff to show you, so let me just grab those things real quick. So since I have it right on top, I'll just show you what I got at All Strung Out first. She had this beautiful yarn from, this is Plied, and it says Plied, a yarn company. I had never heard of them before, but it is spun in New Hampshire, and it's hand-dyed in Baltimore, and it's a really lovely yarn. It reminds me a lot of the colorway that I used to knit my poly cardigan, the quilt motif cardigan that I knit and shared last podcast. I used a spin cycle colorway it was paler than this, but it was kind of a similar vibe with like brown and pink and yellow. But this is called Lemon Stick, and it's really pretty. I actually think it looks better in person than it does on the camera right now because the colors are a bit more distinct, but it's just a beautiful golden honey yellow with that soft pink that I love. So very similar to what I'm wearing right now. And I've got 3 skeins. So I have 150 grams. I think, I have 150 grams, and these are worsted weight. So this should be enough for a nice cowl / small shawl. And I'm going to wear this with, these kinds of things. So, and they're nice and soft. They're very woolly. I'm excited about this. And then I got one skein of this Junction Fiber Mill. It's called Making Tracks. It's 100% American wool. It says it's DK weight, but it's 210 yards. It doesn't say how many grams, but I think it's 100 grams. And I'm going to say this is more worsted. I mean, even just looking at this loose 2-ply, it looks worsted. So this will probably be a fun contrast in a colorwork project, or I will make another little cowl or something. But I just could not help it with these colors. You know, this kind of sort of hand-spun looking yarn, each skein is so unique. And this one, she had others, but this one just stood out to me so much. It has like a really pretty cranberry and sort of mahogany and pink and cherry red, and it's just so pretty. So yeah, I got one skein of this. Definitely looking forward to knitting with this. This will be a fun project wherever it ends up. And then, as mentioned, at Alabama Fiber Festival, generally when I vend at fiber festivals, I try not to buy any hand-dyed yarn, and I think very rarely have I done so. But if there's farm yarn, I can't help myself. I love farm yarn so much, and it's not something I can make or easily get. So when I saw this farm yarn, I had to get it. This is from Tools of Cultivation. They are a farm in North Alabama, practically Tennessee, from what I could tell when I looked up this town, because I'd never heard of it. It looked like it was basically the border of Tennessee and Alabama. And part of why I looked it up was I was kind of curious where they were in terms of having their own sheep, because my husband and I are eventually going to have sheep. That's the long-term goal. And so for years I've been researching which breeds would do well here in the Southeast, since I don't think we'll be leaving the Southeast anytime soon. But yeah, so I got 2 skeins of this beautiful yarn from their sheep. It was so hard to limit myself and to be reasonable about how much I bought. But it's a 2-ply DK. I'm going to be honest, this is probably the softest wool I have ever felt, which is so amazing to know that it was produced right here in Alabama and it came from their sheep. It is so remarkably soft to the touch. I can kind of feel a little tiny bit of scratchiness when I put it up to my neck, but as far as just holding it in my hand, it is so luxurious feeling. I'm very happy about this. I don't know exactly what this will become, but when I have bought farm yarn like this before, I have made little shawls, so I think I'll make this into a special little shawl. I wear those often because the nice, neutral colors, and yeah. I'll probably make this into either a shawl, or I'll make some kind of slip over, just something that this yardage will be sufficient for. And then lastly, from that same farm, I did get, so the Bifurca vest by Teti Lutzak. I knit that earlier this year, I think, or maybe end of last year, in a pink and brown. And this orange yarn in my pumpkin sweater, I had that in stash, same yarn as my pink version. I was planning on making another Bifurca vest out of it, but since I used it in this, I still have enough to make another one, but I was kind of not sure if I wanted to make an orange one now. But this stand, they had these absolutely beautiful woolly, sheepy yarns in the perfect quantity and weight for me to make a Bifurca vest out of beautiful farm yarn, which I think is a nice contrast to the other version that I have, which is very obviously dyed pink and brown. I just thought it would be fun to have something in my wardrobe that was a little bit more earthy and natural, because I do knit with a lot of fun colors, so I was just thinking it'd be fun to have something kind of this cream color. I just love how beautiful it is. Again, it's undyed, straight from their sheep, and this will be my contrast for all the color work. I'll have plenty of this left over, so I'll make some kind of coordinating accessory, either as a gift or to go with my version. But yeah, I just think it's lovely. Again, very, very soft. These are a sport weight. They are about 300 yards, and they were already caked up when I bought them, so I want to go ahead and use them pretty quickly. So I'll be casting this version on, I think, pretty soon. And then I did get a little bit more yarn. So in October, I finally watched Over the Garden Wall, and it has become my whole personality now. I totally love it so much. I think about it all the time. I listen to the soundtrack constantly. I just can't help it. I had dyed up some sock sets and some different things in October based on Over the Garden Wall, and next year I have more plans for sure. But Laura of Tiny Human Knits, I have been wanting to try her yarn for a really long time. She's one of my favorite people on YouTube. She makes the best stuff, and I love her sense of humor, and just, yeah, she's awesome. She's really wonderful. So when she did an Over the Garden Wall update, I went ahead and got some of her yarn. So these are based on the characters. This one is based on Gregory, and this one is based on Wirt. And so this one is one of her factory seconds, which it looks perfect. So she sold this to me, you know, I think it was like half off. I think she should have sold this for the full price. I think she's so generous in that way. Yeah. But I got the sock sets that are the 50 grams with the 20 gram mini because I never use the full skein of sock yarn unless I reuse that yarn. So this will be perfect amount of yarn. But this one that's based on Gregory is called "We're Here to Burgle Your Turts," which is a quote from the show. And I love Gregory. He's like my favorite character in anything ever. And then Wirt, this one is called "I Whisper Poetry to Myself." So I'll probably make this one as a gift because it's not really colors that I will use, but I'm probably going to go ahead and knit the Gregory one pretty quickly while I do a rewatch of the show. And then I might save this for next fall and knit this as I'm watching it next fall. So I don't know. We'll see. But speaking of Over the Garden Wall, this is almost the last thing I have to share. I noticed a couple days ago that one of the yarn dyers whose products I've been considering ordering for the store, they had a few Over the Garden Wall things, and I did not want to miss these. So first of all, I have a needle minder for cross stitch. It is absolutely adorable. I cannot wait to put this on a project. I was going to start an Over the Garden Wall cross stitch project this year, and now I'm going to wait until next fall. So this will definitely go on that project, but I'll probably find a way to use this before then. It's too cute. And then I also got these little stitch markers. So here we have the lantern with their silhouettes. We've got my favorite scene in the whole show. We've got a turtle. We have a rock, because, you know, we need rock facts. And then we have Beatrice. So they did also have a needle slash stitch marker minder that was Enoch, and it was really cool, and I thought about getting it, but I knew I needed to have some self-control, so I didn't order all the things. But that one, it was an Enoch needle minder, but it also had these little like holes cut out where it had some of these stitch markers in them, and so it had, I think it had some of the like other characters, so it was kind of one of those things where you have to buy both to get all of the main characters, and I was not trying to spend all of my money. So I didn't get it. Maybe they'll have it next year and I'll get it then. And then finally, one last thing to share, and I know this is a lot, but we had multiple events, and it's been several months since I've been here. I got the Stardew Valley cross stitch book. So Kim of Oakwood Knits told me about this book, and I was super happy. I didn't buy it right away when she told me about it. I kind of waited until I had a little bit of extra money that I could buy this. I'm very excited. I showed this a little bit in Vlogtober. I can't really just flip through it because most of the pages contain charts, and I'm definitely not trying to give away anybody's intellectual property. So I'm not going to flip through it, but I have to say that if you love Stardew Valley and you like cross stitch or you're considering trying it, this book, totally recommend. I have all kinds of plans for next year, especially since the concert tour dates for next year for the Stardew Valley Symphony have been announced, and the pre-sale tickets go on sale tomorrow, so I'm going to try to get some for next year's show, and then I'll get to kind of cross stitch some Stardew Valley stuff in anticipation, and maybe I'll make some earrings or something to wear to the show. So that's exciting. Yeah, I have lots and lots of projects to get my hands onto. I lied when I said that there was only one thing. I have one more thing to show you, and then I'm done. I promise. I have zero plans to buy anything else for a long time. Speaking of Kim and Over the Garden Wall, Kim came out with the most beautiful Over the Garden Wall inspired colorways, and I really wanted them, but as you have seen, I kind of spent all of my money that I had for my craft budget for the past several months. I spent it all. So I really couldn't afford it. But Kim, if you bring that colorway back next year, you can sign me up. So in the springtime of this year, Goosey Fibers released, did like pre-order for these countdown boxes for December, and it was Winnie the Pooh themed, so I got one. So I ordered this, I don't know, many months ago, and it came in yesterday. I'm super excited about it. Look how cute this box is with the goose on it. It's so cute. Yeah, it's based on Winnie the Pooh when we were 6, and my 2-year-old, one of her most favorite things is Winnie the Pooh, and it's something that we really bond over. So my plan for this is I'm going to knit her a Sweet Shop blanket. So every day when I open this, I will knit one of the little squares, and I'm gonna knit her a blanket start to finish, hopefully, as I open this. And yeah, I'm excited to give that to her. So Winnie the Pooh kind of themed blanket, and then of course Claire Garland came out with the Winnie the Pooh knitting patterns for yeah, so I'm gonna maybe knit her Winnie the Pooh one of these days, and she'll have it with her blanket. Okay, my goodness, I'm gonna need a lot of recovery after all this talking. I should go ahead and let you guys go. I appreciate you so much for sticking it out while I took a couple months before I could do the whole podcasting again. I will try to get some of that vlog footage I've been sort of recording. I'll try to get it up in some way. If that means creating like a Patreon, I'll put that up, or I'll post it here. We'll see what the quality is like. I'm not sure. I will try to vlog in December, as previously mentioned many times. And yeah, just thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure to sit down and share everything I've been up to. Clearly, there's been a lot. I have been busy, super busy. I have a lot to look forward to in these next few months. I'm going to start preparing for Nash Yarn Fest, and yeah, there's a lot coming up. So that's awesome. My goodness, what a busy year this was. All of those things that I had coming up, like the wedding, the New Orleans trip, the fiber festivals, SAF was canceled. Not going to go into that. I definitely already talked about that a lot, but there was a lot that I had on my plate for this year, and it's amazing that it's kind of come and gone. But you guys have been so very supportive, and that's really the only reason why my business is at a point of thriving in any way. You guys are amazing, and just thank you so much. So it was a pleasure. Let me know down below what you're working on as you watch this. This is a long video, so you probably stopped and started this video. Let me know what you've been working on. Yeah, I hope you're all excited for December and the end of the year and the winter season, and just, yeah. So thank you for watching. I will talk to you guys pretty soon. Bye.